All right, everyone, from that clickety clack sound, it's time for TV Oblivion, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanas. This is episode 30, season 2. Today's date is February 12th, 2023, and thank you for joining me on the show. On today's show, here is the lineup. From the 1940s is the game show Winner Take All. From the 1950s is the television western Bronco. From the 1960s, the animated series The Adventures of Gulliver. From the 1970s, the television sitcom A.E.S Hudson Street. And from the 1980s is the family drama Aaron's Way. From the 1990s, the Army Show. There's a pattern here. And from the 2000s, the soap opera drama 90210. Not the 90s one, the other one. So this will be very interesting. So you notice the parent, almost all the shows that I've announced start with the letter A. Isn't that something? That's nice. I did that on purpose. Okay, right now the show will go into a commercial break. And this program is brought to you by Sure Deodorant. And here's a commercial from the 1980s. A lot of people who grew up around that time, like me, would remember this commercial very well, and the jingle, of course. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll be right back. Thank you, everyone.
Raise your hand. You got it. Raise your hand. You know it. You feel confident, secure. Raise your hand. You feel dry now. Raise your hand. You know why now. Raise your hand if you're sure. You've got it. That sure, secure, confident feeling. Because each Sure gives you enough protection to help feel dry all day. Confident, dry and secure. Raise your hand if you're sure.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial for Sure Deodorant. This product is still around. I don't use that deodorant. I use Right Guard. That's still around. So it's pretty good. Yeah, it's a lot of people use the roll-on or the stick or the spray. I like the spray. I don't know why. I don't know. The stick is sticky under your arms like that. So no. I stick with the spray. That's how it is. Everyone has a preference. Okay. At the beginning of the show, I gave you the lineup of episode 30. So let's get started. So the first show I will talk about is the game show Winner Take All. And this one is very interesting. First, it was a radio show that ran from 1946 to 1952 on CBS and NBC. And this was the first game produced by the Mark Goodson, Bill Todman partnership. Those guys went on to create other classic shows. What's My Line? To Tell the Truth, Match Game, you name it, they did it. They did not do Hollywood Squares. That was somebody else. Okay. I forgot who did Hollywood Squares. Well, anyway. So here's how the game went. You have two contestants, one with a buzzer, one with a bell. And they competed in questions and questions based on skits performed beforehand or doing discovery tests, usually while blindfolded inside the studio. The first contestant to sound their signal and give the right answer to the question would score 1 point. With a wrong answer, allowing the opponent a free chance to answer the next question unopposed. And then the first player to score 3 points, won the game and a prize and stayed on to face another challenger. Well, it doesn't sound very exciting, but it sounds interesting. It really does. So let's see, The TV show, when the game show aired on television for the first time, it premiered on 1948. I don't know what month, and it lasted until 1951. Then it moved to NBC in 1952, and the original host was he was an MC. His name was Ward Wilson, but he stepped down after 3 months, and then Bill Cullen. Bill Cullen, he stepped in as a temporary host, and he was supposed to be temporary, but he did a good job. And I believe this was his first game show that he hosted. I think so, one of his first, I guess. And that was in the radio, not the television. Okay, just want to clarify that. And then when it moved to prime time, we found the date. It premiered on television July 1st, 1948, with Bob Collier, who's best known hosting the game shows as Beat the Clock and To Tell the Truth. And Bill Cullen's continued with the radio series for a couple of years, and then Bill Collier took over in 1950, and then it went off the air on October 3rd, 1950. The radio show, like I said before, the radio ended in 1952. So they tried another time. They tried a second attempt. And this is for the daytime. I think the other one aired in the evening. Yeah, prime time to this. And so it debuted on television. He was a radio personality. His name was Barry Gary. He was the MC, and it ran for about 45 minutes. And this aired on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then that was for 45 minutes. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it ran for half an hour. And it ran for quite a while, but then it ended in February 1st, 1952. So that was that. And so that's a shame. And then it moved to NBC. I'm sorry, it moved to NBC too for a while. And the show returned, and Bill Cullen returned as the host. Yeah, so, but it didn't last long. So this one, I think some people sort of remembered it in a way like that. And, I remember reading about this when I was little. This sounded very familiar to me about this game show. So right now I'm going to play, this is the introduction of Winner Take All, hosted by not Bill Cullen, but Barry Gary. And when I come back, I'll talk a little bit about him. So sit back and enjoy, everyone. Thank you.
You want to be a winner? Play Winner Take All. Good. Yes, it's Winner Take All with songs and dances by Betty Jane Watson, Jerry Austin, and Howard Malone, with music and surprises, questions and prizes. And your Winner Take All host, Mary Ray.
Hi. A happy Thursday to you.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the opening credits for Winner Take All that aired on CBS, hosted by Barry Gray. I think I said Barry Gary, but that's not his name. I believe I did that, so I apologize. So I'll talk a little bit about him right now. He was a radio personality. He was labeled as the father of talk radio. He was born Bernard Yaroslaw on July 2nd, 1916 in New Jersey. And he first worked as a disc jockey. And Then he became a talk show host. So he had his own show. And his show, The Barry Gray Show, first went on the air in 1949 in New York in WOR TV, if you're a New Yorker. And then when also he broadcast radio from 3 nightclubs down there, the Copa Lounge, Danny and Doc's Jewel Box, and the Martha Ray Club. I didn't know she had a nightclub. Oh, that's fine, like that. And then he was very popular, in the Miami area, and then he returned to New York, and then he was on the New York. Yeah, he did a talk show host, and it aired in the evening. And you know how it is in the 60s and the 50s and 60s, they aired the music, and that dominated the airwaves. So he felt like threatened, and nobody listened to him. I never heard, to tell you the truth, I never heard of this guy, So he did that, and like that, and then he worked until almost at the end, and then he like that. I think he did. I think he stopped probably. No, he left in 1989. That was the end. I think that's the last day everyone heard from him since, I believe. And then he passed away on December 21st, 1996, and he was 80 years old. So but I watched him on Winner Take All. He seemed like a very nice guy, very relaxed, So, well, you learn something new every day, don't you? So that's about Barry Gray. Okay. Next show I'm going to talk about is Bronco, the TV Western. I remember this. That starred Ty Hardin. And this premiered on September 23rd, 1958, ended on April 30th, 1962, ran for 1 hour, 4 seasons, 68 episodes on ABC. And this didn't. I don't believe it aired on every week because there was a reason. When it premiered in the fall of 1958, there was another series called Cheyenne. If a lot of TV Western fans remembered, that starred Clint Walker. He walked out of his show because of his contract, and there was there's a big story about that. I won't go into that. So they hired another character, Bronco Lane, but they kept the title of Cheyenne. It's kind of weird. And then when it came back, the TV Western Bronco became its own show. It became a spin-off of Cheyenne. I don't know if the two starred together. Maybe they did. And that alternated with another series, Sugarfoot, starring Will Hutchins. And then those two alternated under the Cheyenne title, but it was still like that. That's kind of fun to watch like that. And then Sugarfoot was dropped in 1961, and then Bronco continued with Cheyenne to alternate, and then they went off the air. And I'm not sure when Cheyenne stopped. Probably the same year. Yeah, it stopped the same year. So I like the theme song. You go, Bronco, Bronco. I love that song. It's funny. There were a lot of guest stars on the show, the usual that starred in Westerns, like Peter Breck. Remember him from Big Valley. Also Russ Conway. He appeared in a lot of Westerns. Let's see who else. Pernell Roberts appeared as a reverend on one of the shows before he moved over to Adam Cartwright on Bonanza. And let's see, and also Jack Nicholson starred in one of the shows. That's one of his early TV roles. I want to see that. I really did. I really would like to see that. And it does that show. I know it ran for 4 seasons. It wasn't syndicated very much. After that, it did, but then it just disappeared. It went to TV oblivion, and then I believe then they later on it was shown in cable, and then the DVD was released. All 4 seasons. I haven't bought it yet. I want to buy it because I found it very interesting. So, about the show, this is about Ty Hardin played Bronco Lane. He was a former Confederate officer who wandered the Old West, and he just met people on the way. He would meet like some well-known people, like Wild Bill Hickok, Billy the Kid, Jesse James, Belle Starr, and also President Theodore Roosevelt. So that's interesting. Right now, I'm going to play the opening theme song for Bronco. When I come back, I'll talk about the star, Ty Hardin. Okay, so sit back and enjoy, everyone. Thank you.
Bronco, Bronco, tearing across the Texas plains. Bronco, Bronco, Bronco Lane. Born down around the old Panhandle, Texas is where he grew to fame. There ain't a horse that he can't handle, that's how he got his name. Bronco, Bronco, tearing across the Texas plains. Bronco, Bronco, Bronco Lane. Next to a four-square Texas twister, you'd call a cyclone meek and mild. You've never seen a twister, mister, till someone gets him riled. Bronco, Bronco, tearing across the Texas plains. Bronco, Bronco, Bronco Lane. Show me a gal who's kissed him once, I'll show you a gal who's kissed him twice. Once any gal has kissed him twice, she's dreaming of shoes and rice. Bronco, Bronco, tearing across the Texas plains. Bronco, Bronco, Bronco Lane.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the introduction to Bronco. I'm going to talk about his star, Ty Hardin. Excuse me. He was born Orison Whipple Hungerford Jr. What a moniker! It's a long name like that, you know. And he was born in New York, but he was raised in Texas in Austin when he was about 6 months old. And he had a football scholarship. He played football, and then he enlisted in the Army during the Korean War. And so he did that. And then he got it discovered by a talent agent from Paramount Pictures while he was at a costume party. And by 1957, he got an agent, made his way to Hollywood, and he was under contract. And he made a few movies. You know, he appeared a few. One stood out was I Married a Monster from Outer Space. That one is a classic. I like that. He was supposed to be in Rio Bravo, that Western that started in 1959 that starred John Wayne. And but he didn't get the role. Ricky Nelson got it, so he did that. And then he attended the actor school. He learned his craft and blah blah blah, and he did that. Then when Clint Walker walked out of the series Cheyenne during a contract dispute, Ty Hardin walked in, and he was Bronco Lane. So they offer. So when, like I said before, where Clint Walker returned to the role of Cheyenne, they spun off the show for Bronco, and he got his own show for a little while, and he did very well. And after it ended, he appeared in other shows. One movie that stood out was Spring Break, not the Spring Break film, excuse me, Palm Springs Weekend. I remember watching that show. That was fun, like that. And then he did travel to Europe, did some spaghetti westerns, just like Clint Eastwood. And then he had a show in Australia called Riptide. Not the Riptide from the 80s. That's another one. I got to check that out. It's very... And so he appeared on a lot of television shows. And he came back to the States. He appeared, The Love Boat and all that. And then he moved to Arizona, and then he had an interesting life. And then he founded a tax protest movement, and it was called the Arizona Patriots, which is kind of strange like that. But he was great to his fans. So I think he did appearances, maybe at comic book conventions or any events, and did sign autographs. He was great to his fans, so that's great. Like that. And he died on August 3rd, 2017. He was 87 years old. So that's he lived a long life. So he seemed like a nice guy. He really did, But he's still well known. He's still well known today as Bronco Lane. So I'm going to get the DVD. I promise. I will get it someday. All right. Next up, from the 1960s, we have The Adventures of Gulliver. And this was an anime series, and it first aired on September 14th, 1968, ended January 4th, 1969, for one season, 17 episodes, from the Hanna-Barbera Company on ABC. And this was loosely based on the novel Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. And this is, of course, where, the story, where they were on a ship, and then Gulliver got shipwrecked on an island, and he was landed on, the island was the kingdom of Lilliput. And they were little people like that. In this case, it was Gary Gulliver, and he had his dog Tag, and then at first they were not friendly to him, but they became friends, and and there were four characters, the Lilliputians, that is, that that hung out with Gulliver. Also, there was the villain of the show was Captain Leech. I remember it. And his main purpose was to steal a map from Gary Gulliver. And the map was that was left from Gary Gulliver's father, and it was secretly put in Tag's collar before the shipwreck. So Captain Leach was trying to obtain it. He's trying to obtain the map. And the other characters were, there was King Pomp. He was the king of the king of Lilliput. Also, there was Flirtatia. That was his daughter. There was Bunko, and there was Eager, and Glum. Oh, Glum. He was my favorite. And a lot of people remember this to this day about that character. He was the most pessimistic cartoon character ever. He says, we're going to be caught. We're doomed. I love that. The first time I watched this show was not when it aired on ABC. It was on the Banana Splits when they were rerun. And then it became, when the Banana Splits and Friends, that was the title. The Banana Splits Adventure Hours, or the Banana Splits and Friends show. And that was in Chicago on WFLD TV, Channel 32. think 73, 74, something like that. You know, that's where I first watched the show, and I loved it because there were other cartoon series that were under that umbrella. The Arabian Nights, The Three Musketeers, also Danger Island, Django. That was not animated. Well, it was sort of animated in a way with Django. And I loved the show. I really did. I enjoyed it. Okay. And the usual voices of the cast was Jerry Dexter. He did the voice of Gary Gulliver. John Stevenson, of course, he did Captain Leach, and Thomas Gulliver, and King Pop, famous for Mr. Slate. Jeannie Tyler was for Tasha. Also, Alan Melville was Bunko. You know him from Sam the Butcher, from the Brady Bunch. Don Messick. You know him as all the voices, throughout the years on Hanna-Barbera. And also Herb Vigran. You saw him in a lot of TV shows from the 50s to all the way almost at the end. I remember from I Love Lucy, Superman. He was also on the Brady Bunch. He played the Marcia's not driving instructor. When she went to get her license, and she was offered advice. Just think of people in their underwear. I think her father offered that, and then when she sat in the car, he saw him in his underwear and his shirt, and like his undershirt, like that. That was funny, like that. Okay, so right now I'm going to play the theme song of The Adventures of Gulliver, and when I come back, I'll talk a little more about the show. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the opening for The Adventures of Gulliver. Let me talk about the man who did the voice of Gary Gulliver. His name, he was an actor. His name was Jerry Dexter, and he did a lot of voices for Hanna-Barbera from the 60s to the 80s. His first cartoon voice was as Chuck in the series Shazam, if you remember that. His famous voice was Alan in Josie and the Pussycats. And so before that, before Josie and the Pussycats, he did Space Ghost and Dino Boy. Also, he did Aqualad. Did that. And so that was the Superman Aquaman Hour adventure that ran from 1967 to 68, just one season. He also did Elmo the dog on the Funky Phantom. Then he returned to Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, also Goober and the Ghost Chasers, and then returned to as Alan and Mayberry in the new Scooby-Doo movies. Yeah. So his voice was heard from Fangface, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show, Drak Pack, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And then Challenge of the GoBots, also the Jetsons, not the 1960s version, the 80s one. and also in DuckTales, he did that. He also appeared in live action shows like McHale's Navy, Hazel. He was in Gomer Pyle USMC, Dragnet, and After School Special. He appeared on one. And the last one he did was the Angelian Show, starring now Angelian. And he was born in San Francisco on April 18th, 1935. He died on June 12th, 2013. He was 78 years old, but he was a talented guy. So I think of when I think of Jerry Dexter, I think of Alan from Josie and the Pussycats, which is one of my favorite cartoon series. It really is. I love that. And that theme song, you can get out of your head. Yeah, you really can. Okay, next up, we go to the 70s, and the next show I'm going to talk about is A.E.S Hudson Street. This is a sitcom. Very brief show. So here we go. This premiered March 16th, 1978. Ended April 20th, 1978. About a month. Aired on ABC. Ran for one season, 5 episodes. I don't know if there were more. So there's not much information on that, so I'll do the best I can. So the plot of the show was the AES stood for Ambulance Emergency Service, and it was a hospital on Hudson Street on the lower west side of Manhattan. And that starred Gregory Sierra, and you may know him as from Barney Miller, Sergeant Chano Mangual on Barney Miller. Also as Julio Fuentes on the classic TV show Sanford and Son. Oh, he was wonderful in that. I remember Chico the Goat. He's hilarious. It was hilarious. But I think he was on Barney Miller. I think they offered him a role, and then he offered him the role for this show, and he took it. But he never returned to Barney Miller. I don't think so. So also in the cast was Bill Court as Jerry Meckler, Rosanna DeSoto as Nurse Rosa Santiago, Ralph Manza as Ambulance Aide Stanky. I remember this guy was everywhere. He was a great character actor. Also, Alan Miller as Dr. Glick, the psychiatrist. He was everywhere too. Also, Susan Peretz as Foshko, the ambulance driver. I remember her from an episode on Murder, She Wrote, and she played a prisoner in a women's prison. Also, Barry Youngfellow. You remember her from It's a Living. Ray Stewart as Nurse Newton. By the way, Barry Youngfellow played Dr. Gloria Manners. As J. Powell Carbo, the hospital administrator, as played by Stephen Yark. I can't spell it. Yarks. I can't believe Girox. I'll spell his name. Gieersch. I remember him from Dark Shadows, the 1990s revival. I think he played Dr. Woodman, I think. I'm not sure. It's been a while. Also Bob Dishy. You remember him from a lot of TV shows. He played Dr. Friedman, and also Julianne Wells as Nurse Rhonda Todd. Now, the pilot aired on July 21st, 1977. And that starred F. Murray Abraham as Tony Menzies. That was Gregory Sierra's role. And so you may know him from Amadeus, from the movie in 1984. And only 2 from the original cast remain. That was Ray Stewart and Bob Dishy. Well, and then the other casts were dropped and then recast. I wish I could see the pilot. That'd be interesting. So that didn't do very well, and it got canceled. And then the series was remade in 1991 and that was called Stat. And I remember that show, and aired on the same network. That premiered on April 16th, 1991, and in May 21st, 1991. Just a month. Same thing with this one. So, and that lasted 6 episodes, not 5 like this one. I don't know if they had a pilot. So, right now I'm going to play the theme song for A.E.S Hudson Street, and when I come back, I'll talk a little bit more about Gregory Sierra. Okay, so sit back and enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Okay, everyone, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the theme song for A.E.S Hudson Street. Right now, I'll talk a little bit more about Gregory Sierra. He was born January 25th, 1937, New York City, that is, and in Spanish Harlem. And then he toured with the National Shakespeare Company, and so he was a very talented guy. One of his earliest TV roles was in The Flying Nun, and he appeared in a few movies. Papillon, I can't pronounce that word. He was also in The Towering Inferno, and also The Prisoner of Zenda. One of his earliest roles, the one that stood out the most before he got cast as in the show Barney Miller, was he was in All in the Family. And the role he played was Paul Benjamin, and he was a Jewish activist. And he's trying to fight anti-Semitism in the neighborhood. And that was the episode where they painted a SWAT sticker in Archie Bunker's front door because he was mistaken for another guy, a Jewish guy. But so you know what happened? His house was 704 Hauser Street, but the other guy lived on 740. The numbers transposed. So, and then at the end of the show, there was another guy that visited the Bunker household and saw Paul Benjamin and told him, they know now this is the wrong house. So when he went into his car, it was planted by the neo-Nazis, and the car blew up, and that was scary. Oh, that was awful. It was terrible. That's one of the saddest moments in All in the Family. And but there was disagreements with Mike Stivic and with Archie and all that. Well, you know how it is in All in the Family. And then during that time, he got a recurring role as Julio Fuentes on Sanford and Son. He played the neighbor of Fred Sanford. He was there from 1972 to 1975, and then he spent 2 years on Barney Miller. And then he left that for A.E.S Hudson Street. And then on the last season of Soap, he played on Soap, played Carlos Alberto Valdez, and he was Jessica Tate's lover. I remember that. That was funny, And then he got cast as on Miami Vice in 1984, but he didn't want to. They filmed in Miami, but he didn't want to do that. So He was replaced by Edward James Olmos, so that's why he continued to act on TV shows, in movies, lots. I remember a Murder, She Wrote. I saw him recently, and then he passed away on January 4th, 2021, a couple of years ago, at the age of 83. So he was a very talented guy. I liked him a lot. He was funny. He was charming. Very talented man. Okay. Next up we got is we go to the 1980s, and that's Aaron's Way. And this was a family drama that starred Merlin Olsen as Aaron Miller. This show first aired March 9th, 1988, ended May 25th, 1988 on NBC. Ran for 14 episodes, one season, 60 minutes. And this was about, Merlin Olsen was the head of an Amish family that moved to California. And they tried to adapt the California culture, they stuck out like a sore thumb, like that. So the plot of this show was Aaron Miller's son, Noah. He left the Amish community a long time ago. And then they learned that his son died, Noah died in a surfing accident. And they go to the funeral. They go to his funeral. And they learned that Noah lived with a woman named Susanna, and who owns a vineyard and is pregnant. So they decided to move over there. And when he found out that Aaron, that his wife was still in touch with his son. So they moved to California, and then trying to cope. They try to adjust and like that. And sometimes they were, with neighbors, you have the Amish culture, you have that. And that's what made it interesting. So some people like the show. The Amish community, not really. They didn't care for it. So that's a shame. So most of the cast members, I'm going to tell you right now. We have Merlin Olsen as Aaron Miller. We have Belinda Montgomery as Sarah Miller. You may remember her as the mother of Doogie Howser. Samantha Mathis as Roseanne Miller. Aaron Chase as Martha Miller. Scott Curtis as Frank Miller. That's the children. You have Kathleen York as Susanna Loverde. Remember her as the mother of Donna Martin on 90210. Also, Jessica Walter as Connie Loverde, which she was in 90210, the second version. I'll talk about that. Also, Christopher Garden as Mickey Loverde, and also Pierino as Mascarino as Mr. Benvenuto. So I remember watching this show when it aired. It was beautiful, the vineyards and beautiful that. It was during like Falcon Crest. But Merlin Olsen seemed like a very nice guy. And I think he did the commercials for FDT, the flower company. So I'm going to play the theme song for Aaron's Way. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Merlin Olsen. Okay? So he had an interesting career and life. Okay? So sit back and enjoy, everyone. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the introduction of Aaron's Way. I'm going to talk a little about Merlin Olsen. Uh, he was a football player, announcer, and actor. And for his entire football career, he was the defensive tackle for the LA Rams. And I don't know how good he is. I don't watch football, so I guess he was fine like that. And he was born in Logan, Utah, and then so he pursued athletics. He played not only just football, but played basketball as well. Then he just played his career, and he played from the Rams from 1962 to 1976. That's a long time. Wow, that's a long time indeed. And so and then he became a broadcaster, actor, and businessman. And one of his earliest roles was in a movie called The Undefeated with John Wayne. And then his first TV, one of his earliest TV roles was in Petticoat Junction. He played a mountaineer. His name was Merlin Fergus. I never caught that. Check it out. And then when Little House of the Prairie first was on the air, starring Michael Landon, remember actor Victor French, he left to start his own TV sitcom, Carter Country. Merlin Olsen played his new sidekick, Jonathan Garvey, for a few years. And he did that. And Aaron's Way was not his first starring role. The series, the other one was Father Murphy, which I remember this show that aired from 1981 to 1983, for a couple years on NBC. And he appeared on Highway to Heaven, again with Michael Landon. And then I mentioned before, he was the spokesman for FTD Florist, for many years. I remember seeing that on television all the time. He seemed like a nice guy. He really did. He really was. And let's see. And then, unfortunately, he passed away on March 11th, 2010. He was 69 years old. So he had a very interesting career. He's a very likable guy. Not a bad actor, too, as well. He was pretty good. Okay. Next up, we have from the 90s, the television sitcom, The Army Show. I sort of remember the show. So I'll give a little. It's very brief. That. So this program debuted on the WB on September 13th, 1998. Canceled December 13th, 1998, same year. Ran for 13 episodes, one season. And the plot is about an Army sergeant, played by David Anthony Higgins, who must take charge of a group of soldiers at Fort Bendix, Florida, while hiding his profitable schemes from his higher class officers. You know what? This sounds just like Sergeant Bilko in a way. Kind of, it sounds almost too familiar like that. So I saw it a couple times. It was okay. And other than that, the show was about a guy. His name was John Caesar, so he was a hacker, and instead of going to prison, he's enlisted in the military at Fort Bendix, and the sergeant was under David Hopkins, played by David Anthony Higgins, and so there was like repertoire between them. They were talking and all that. So the cast consisted of course, David Anthony Higgins, Sergeant David Hopkins, John Sensio as John Caesar, uh, also Harold Sylvester as Colonel John Henchy, Victor Togundi as Ozzie Lee, Greg Anton as Lieutenant Bradford Handy, Toby Haas as Rusty Link, Ronnie Kerr as Romeo, and Ivana Milcevic, I can't pronounce her name, is Private Lana Povic. Very pretty lady, indeed. So, it wasn't a bad show, wasn't a good show, but it didn't last long. So there wasn't an audience for that, so it fell into TV oblivion. Right now, I'm going to play the theme song for the Army show. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little about David Anthony Higgins, a little more about his career. Okay, so sit back and enjoy, everyone. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the theme song for the Army show. Right now, I'll talk about the actor David Anthony Higgins. He has guest starred in a lot of TV shows and appeared in a lot of movies. He's best known as Craig Feldspar on Malcolm in the Middle, also as Joe on Ellen. And he was the Baritza, I think. Yeah, he was that. And also he had a recurring role as Harry on Mike and Molly. I forgot seeing that. And also on Big Time Rush, that was aired on Nickelodeon. And let's see. So the movies that he appeared on was like Tapeheads, Hiding Out, Snake Eyes. Let's see what else. Not very memorable movies like that. But on TV, he also appeared on News Radio, The Pretender, Judging Amy, My Wife and Kids. What else? Last Man Standing. He was there. He was on American Horror Story, The Murder House. He was there for 3 episodes. And the last he appeared was Be Positive. It was a recurring role. He appeared in that. Seemed like a nice guy. Yeah, very good actor. I liked him on Ellen. He was funny. They don't show that show. They don't show that program anymore. With Ellen DeGeneres. It was a big hoopla back then in the 90s. When Ellen came out. But now it's like, it's gone. I don't know if it's on DVD. I'm not sure. We'll see. Okay, last show I'm going to talk about is from the 2000s. Is 90210. Now, why you're asking me is, why are you talking about this? And is it the show from the 90s? No, this is from the 2000s, and this one ran for 5 seasons, but it's largely forgotten. A lot of people don't remember it because the first one is the most memorable. So I'll get started talking about the reboot version. So this was first aired on September 2nd, 2008, ended May 13th, 2013 on the CW. And it ran for 5 seasons. And so let's see. And this was, it started like in the beginning. In the original, you had the Walshes, but they moved from, I forgot where they moved from, Minnesota, I believe, to Beverly Hills, but this time it's from Kansas to Beverly Hills. And when they moved, they, encountered new people, from work and school, mostly school, of course, like that. And it had an interesting cast. It really did. You had Harrison Wilson, who played the father. That was played by Rob Estes. You remember him from Colin McBride from Melrose Place. Josie Bassett's husband. They're not married anymore. They broke up. And the mother played by Debbie Wilson, Lori Loughlin. Remember her from Full House. And also in the cast was Jessica Walter. He played Tabitha Wilson, played Harrison Wilson's mother. I liked her in that show. She was hilarious. Like that. And also the kids were Annie Wilson and Dixon Wilson. And I think he was adopted because he was black. So, of course, because the parents were white. So, and so that's good, It was funny. Annie Wilson was played by Shanae Grimes, and Dixon Wilson was played by Tristan Wiles. And let's see who else. So the original, there were some cast members from the original series that made appearances. Like, for example, there was Jenny Garth. She played a high school counselor, I believe. Shannon Doherty was there for a couple of appearances. Also, Anne Gillespie, who played Jenny Garth's mother. I believe her mother, yeah. And then there was Tori Spelling. I think she made maybe one or two. I don't remember. And then there was Joey Tata, that played, I forgot his name. Nate. From Nat. Excuse me. Nat Buccio, who owned the Peach Pit Diner. He still owned it on the show. Other people were not mentioned. But I remember Jenny Garth had a child, and that was fathered by Luke Perry, Dylan McKay's character. We don't know what happened to him. Also, also in the cast was Erin Silver. That was a half sister of Kelly Taylor by Jenny Garth, and David Silver played by Brian Austin Green. And she was one of the most. She was in the cast. She was one of the main cast members, like that. And I won't go into more detail of that because it'll take me forever. But I'll tell you who else was in the show. We also have Naomi Clark, that was played by Anna Lynn McCord. She was not a nice girl, kind of snooty, and made Annie Wilson's life miserable in the beginning, but they became friends later. They became friendly. I'm glad, because I didn't like when they were bad like that. Also, there was Ethan Ward, played by Dustin Milligan. He was only there for one season. Also, Ryan Matthews, he played, that was played by Ryan Eggold. You may know him from New Amsterdam, medical drama. They just went off the air. He was there for 3 seasons. Let's see. And then, of course, Erin Silver, played by Jessica Stroup. She was there for the entire thing. There was Naveed Shirazi, played by Michael Steger. He was there for the entire cast. Rob Estes only was there for 2 seasons. And Lori Loughlin stayed another season until season 3, and then she got involved with Ryan Matthews, the teacher. And I think they got married. I don't remember. Also, Tabitha Wilson, who played by Jessica Walter, which I mentioned before. She was great. She was only there for 1 season. And there was Adriana Tay Duncan, played by Jessica Lowndes. She was recurring, then she stayed for the entire thing. Also, there was Matt Lantern, the actor. He played Liam Court. Now, he was recurring and then became a main cast member he was the Dylan McKay in that show. And first he got involved with Naomi Clark, and then he got involved with Annie. Because I remember early in the show that she was like blackballed, and she ran over somebody in the car, and it was like, oh, because she got framed by Naomi Clark's sister. There was some scandal like that. And it was that was heart-wrenching to watch like that. And also there was in the cast was Teddy Montgomery, played by Trevor Donovan. He was recurring. He started in season 2, and then he was there for one season for season 3, and then he was recurring after that. He was on Dancing with the Stars recently. Yeah, I just remember that. And the last cast member was Ivy Sullivan, played by Gillian Cinzer. She was there, but she didn't appear in the last season. She was recurring in May. So it wasn't memorable, but I got hooked on the show. I like that. And, it's fun. It was a fun show to watch. And it was great to go back to 90210, to Beverly Hills High. And they made Melrose Place too, but that lasted one season, and it wasn't that good, but they brought back some cast members as well. Okay, so when I come back, let's see. I will play the theme song, and I will talk about the cast. I will talk about Matt Lanter, the actor who played Liam Court. Okay, so sit back and enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the opening for 90210. It's still the same theme song, but just a little more grittier like that. It's more like that, but I like it. As for the actor Matt Lanter, that's his name. He's an actor and a model. I remember him from a TV show called Commander in Chief that aired before that. I think that started with Gina Davis and did that. And he did a lot of voice acting. He did The Ultimate Spider-Man. He also voiced in The Secret of the Wings. He also did the animated film Star Wars, The Clone Wars. He was the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, he also did that. That's great. And I don't know what he does. I haven't seen him lately. I don't know what he does now. So let's see what else he did. Oh, he also did in The Death of Superman, the animated series. He was the voice of the Aquaman. Excuse me. I did, Also in Justice League, He did that. So one of his earliest roles was Eight Simple Rules, and that was John Ritter's TV show, if you remember that. Also Point Pleasant, CSI, Big Love, Grey's Anatomy. Let's see what else. Also did another voice for Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated. Another CSI show, Cyber. He starred in that. So that was so most of the Star Wars films, the animated films, he did the voice. He did that. Also the video games. That's kind of cool. Okay, so that's an exhausting list and a show. So that'll be all for today. So I will do a recap of what I discuss on the show. So here's the lineup one more time. From the 1940s, I talked about the game show Winner Take All. From the 1950s, the television western Bronco. From the 1960s, The Adventures of Gulliver. From the 1970s, the television sitcom A.E.S Hudson Street. From the 1980s, the family TV drama Aaron's Way. From the 1990s, the TV sitcom Army Show. And from the 2000s, the remake of the TV drama and soap opera / that 90210. So once this podcast is published, it'll be available wherever podcasts are available: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. It'll also be posted on my YouTube channel, TV Oblivion, and also on my Facebook page, TV Oblivion, and my group, and also on Twitter. Okay. So this is Pete Costanis, your host, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you enjoy watching the game. I'm not going to watch it. I'll leave the TV on. My family's going to watch it. So just can't wait till it's over. So we'll talk again. And so here's the theme song for the show, the Pick and Pluck, and I will talk to you again very soon. I'll probably have another episode next weekend. Thank you, everyone. Take care.